engaging trainers. They are planning additional local trainings for this year and the following years, and they will continue to share their experience and collaborate through the new established Train the Trainer network. So we have also continued this program, and in 2022 we have 28 participants from 13 countries in Africa. In terms of gender balance, more needs to be done in Africa to increase the percentage of women's participation in the capacity building activities. While in the most regions around the world we have an average of above 50% of female attendance, in Africa the average is around 40%. So despite remaining low, this percentage represents an increase if you compare to the 34% that was the rate for 2020. And under the Africa Initiative, actions will continue to be promoted to ensure inclusivity and equal access to knowledge. We have also two last miles trainings, which are trainings that focus on sensitizing tax auditors and investigators to increase their awareness of the use of this tool, the exchange of information, and how they could do it. So we had more than 600 participants in 2021. Next slide, please. So we developed 3 new toolkits in 2021. One is a model manual for exchange of information for tax purpose, and this was done in partnership with the World Bank Group and the African Development Bank, and it provides guidance and templates for implementing relevant procedures for all forms of exchange of information, which includes exchange of information on request, spontaneous, joint audits, etc. And it also reflects recent improvements, such as group requests. Another toolkit is the toolkit on building effective beneficial ownership frameworks, and this was done in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank. And as you all know, this is a key area, a key concept for transparency and exchange of information, and it's also one of the biggest challenges in the implementation of the exchange of information standards. So this toolkit, I hope it's going to be very helpful to all the jurisdictions. Finally, we developed a toolkit for the implementation of the standard for automatic exchange of financial account information, and this was done with the financial support of GIZ. Next slide, please. Recognizing that cross-border recovery of tax claims is a critical pillar in a jurisdiction revenue strategy, the African countries decided to focus on assistance in this field, and because this is a particular challenge, not many countries had experience on that, and this is challenging also at the domestic level. So the Africa Initiative members decided to establish a working group to work on this field, and now it's running. It's a very mature group, and we have 23 officials from 12 African countries working in this field. This group developed the first note on the trends on cross-border assistance in the recovery of tax claims in Africa. And the recommendations made by this group was that to be able to fully benefit from assistance in cross-border collection of tax claims, the countries had to strengthen their domestic tax claims functions. There would also be necessary to develop a strategy for this function, and they should adopt an appropriate international legal base for facilitating the cross-border recovery of tax claims. And this group has been supported by experts from the Belgian tax administration and the Japanese tax administrations. We are very grateful for these countries that have provided the experts. I think we have Michael over there, yes, and he's going to presenting later during these days. And we also have a colleague from Japan that is going to make a presentation remotely, and that demonstrates the support and that we are receiving from these two jurisdictions. Next slide, please. So looking ahead and what we have to do, what we need to continue doing to move this agenda forward. So the COVID pandemic has progressively receded in most countries, so we are focusing on promoting the inclusion of exchange of information in national strategies for DRM and for the post-pandemic recovery. With our partners, we continue to deliver tailored assistance in line with the needs of each country. We do not adopt a one-size-fits-all approach. We try to understand the reality of each country and help them implement the strategy that they develop themselves. So we support each path towards the implementation of the standard and to the benefits of it. We understand that each country has a different path and a different rhythm. So we want to support each one of you in your path towards more transparency and the use of exchange of information. The main areas of support that we'll be focusing on are an effective exchange of information framework and the broadening of automatic exchange of information implementation. And support will be provided to ensure that countries have a robust domestic framework to comply with the international standards and support their fight against tax evasion and other forms of illicit financial flows. And to that end, we should also monitor the impact of exchange of information on DRM and on the fight against illicit financial flows. I'm very pleased to say that while the female participation of African officials in the Global Forum events has increased compared to last year, despite it still being reduced compared to other regions. But this year we have another trigger that we hope will increase the participation of female colleagues in the discussions and the events related to transparency and exchange of information. We launched this year the program Women's Leaders in Tax Transparency, and the goal is to promote female leadership in tax transparency and so reduce gender gaps. On this 2022 pilot edition, we have 8 motivated and brilliant participants from Africa. And this is out of the 22 participants. So Africa is participating with a large share of these brilliant ladies that are engaging in this program. We will also, of course, continue to work on the area of cross-border assistance in the recovery of tax claims. And we hope that this would help countries move forward in this so important function for any tax administration. Next slide, please. So, to conclude, I would like to thank with all my heart all the donors and partners of the Africa Initiative for their commitment and their support. I don't think it's the next. I don't think we could have done it without their support, and the trust that they deposit on us motivates us to move even further. So I want to thank especially the European Union, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Senegal, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. Next slide, please. As well as our partners in the Africa Initiative, the Africa Union Commission, ATAF, the African Development Bank, CATA, CREDAF, IFC, WATAF, and the World Bank Group. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think you will have to join me again in thanking Zaida for a very eloquent and elaborate presentation. We have taken note of the progress made by African countries. It's very evident that Africa is making serious progress in ensuring that there is political support for exchange of information, and also in ensuring that there is capacity in Africa to ensure effective exchange of information. So thank you, Zaida, for that. Now, the role of civil society is clearly recognized as vital in influencing changes in the global tax environment. The Tax Justice Network Africa has been at the forefront of this in Africa. We would like now to have a commentary from Ms. Chenai Mukuba, Policy Research and Advocacy Manager, Tax Justice Network Africa, on how exactly they see the progress that Africa has made in addressing tax evasion using exchange of information. We'd like to hear what is their view on where we are. So allow me now to welcome Ms. Mukuba to make a few comments. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, allow me to thank you for recognizing the role of civil society and for inviting us to be able to contribute to this discussion. Thank you so much for your presentation, Zeda. I think it very accurately reflected what was in the publication that we received. And I think one of the things that I want to begin by highlighting is that the report clearly indicates the importance of the need for African countries to tackle illicit financial flows. And it also speaks to the way in which the promoting of tax transparency and exchange of information are important and cannot be understated. And this is particularly given the disruptions we've been seeing within the global economy. And so, to not mention all of them, a couple of these that have particularly negatively affected the continent include the COVID pandemic, which upended economies and health sectors, the climate change issue that we are seeing that is devastating communities across the continent, the conflicts that we are seeing across the world that are as a result causing an increase in commodities, and also the debt burden that many African countries are facing, really pointing to the need that African countries double down on finding ways to curb illicit financial flows and promote domestic resource mobilization. And so there's 3 points that I would like to speak to this morning. 3 points that we think could increase the uptake of African countries using tax transparency and exchange of information to help them, to borrow your words, Zeda, unlock their potential. So the first point that I'd like to speak to is the way in which, as an institution, we view this current tool as fit for purpose. So from the report, we can see that African countries are indeed making strides. We can see an increase in the level of knowledge that tax administrators have. We can see that more countries are essentially putting in place core elements. We can also see that there is a significant amount of revenue that is coming back to the continent. But in our view, we feel that there is a need to somewhat temper our enthusiasm about the progress that's being made. In the last 8 years, this is the documentation we saw in the publication, we saw that progress had been made indeed in tackling tax evasion and other illicit financial flows through transparency and exchange of information for tax purposes. The increase of countries making requests to 15 last year was up from 6 in 2014, which reflects an increase of about 1 country per year. And so as TGNA, we were requested to look at what are some of the challenges that African countries may be facing in embracing transparency strategies in the fight against tax evasion. African countries face certain challenges. They've indicated that they lack the capacity to collect information locally to allow them full reciprocal information exchange. They lack capacity to analyze the information received as well as deal with information technology. However, not all the challenges are related to insufficient capacity. There are also challenges that we feel are related to the design that beg our attention. So it's important for us to interrogate why has there been somewhat of a slow uptake. Given the potential positive implications that this tool can have for African governments, why does it seem as though there is somewhat of a lethargic response? And it's important for us to ask ourselves the difficult questions about how fit for purpose this tool is. In addition to only 15 countries making requests, it's also noted that it's uneven progress that we are seeing. So only 4 countries accounted for 92% of the requests made by African countries. The report doesn't really delve into this question. It highlights a lot of the steps that are being taken to address the capacity challenges. But what's important to also look into is, are there potential design issues that are limiting the way in which African countries are able to and are taking advantage of this opportunity? So with my next 2 points, I want to delve into the systematic challenges that we also think could be contributing to this. The current automatic exchange of information standard requires reciprocal exchange, i.e. both jurisdictions have to agree to send each other information. However, many non-G20 developing countries are not popular destinations for citizens from developed countries to hide assets. But several developed countries are important destinations for citizens from developing countries to hide assets. As a result, as civil society, we have been consistently calling that automatic exchange of information should be shared on a non-reciprocal basis with non-G20 developing countries that are not financial centers, particularly least developed countries. Comparatively, there is a relatively small amount of money that is moving from rich countries to poor countries, yet vast sums of money are moving the other way. Therefore, it makes sense to offer developing countries a grace period somewhat, where they can receive information without sending their own. And this could be for a period of time. This principle of common but differentiated responsibilities is something that we see in many UN negotiations, and something that we feel could also be of value in this particular situation. My third point is around contribution to standard setting. If we want to address some of the design standards, it's important that we also discuss, if we want to design standards relevant to developing countries, a design issue that we believe is important is also the one where we see African countries being a part of the standard setting and not just of implementation. In this vein, as civil society, we have been calling for these conversations to be primarily held at the United Nations. And so while we see the value of this particular platform, we see it as one that essentially is a safeguard, one that can serve the purpose of providing a facilitative purpose as it seeks to essentially ultimately create a framework for international cooperation, which we think could happen at the UN. Over the past several years, Global South countries have repeatedly called for the establishment of an international tax body under the auspices of the UN to fix the tax system. Last month, for example, we saw that this call was reiterated by the Conference of African Ministers of Finance, Planning, and Economic Development. We see this as particularly valuable because we would then see it as a platform where African countries can also contribute to the design and rather than just the implementation of some of these standards. And so as I conclude, what I'd like to say is that we are indeed seeing progress. We are seeing increased transparency and exchange of information for tax purposes, as has been reported, but we are of the view that much more can be done. We note that African governments see the value of this work. However, there is a need to address not only the internal issues that have been reflected in the report, but some of the systemic and structural issues as well. And as we do so, we hope that as we work towards sealing the gaps that are allowing for the outflow of illicit financial flows from the continent, we see ourselves drawing closer to the attainment of our continent's objectives and goals. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Ms. Mukuba, for very insightful comments. I am sure the issues you have raised will inform our deliberations moving forward in this meeting and also in the future engagements within the Global Forum and also within the Africa Initiative, especially the question of sharing information, automatic sharing of information on a reciprocal basis. So thank you very much indeed. Allow me now to also welcome His Excellency Mr. Albert M. Muchanga, Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Industry and Mining, Africa Union Commission, to give us a few comments through a virtual platform.
Mr. Git Mburu, Commissioner General, Kenya Revenue Authority. Mr. Edward Kizweta, Commissioner, South African Revenue Service. MS Zaida Manata, Head of the Global Forum Secretariat. Mr. Logan Watt, Executive Secretary of the African Tax Administration Forum. Commissioners General of the African Tax Administrations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to address this 11th meeting of the Africa Initiative. While I have wished to be with you in person, it was not possible due to commitments in the 12th World Trade Organization Ministerial Meet Conference, which is now underway in Geneva, Switzerland. I'm, however, pleased to be able to convey the African Union perspective on the 2022 Tax Transparency in Africa report through this video communication. The Tax Transparency in Africa report is gaining stature as a source of data on tax transparency and exchange of information. This bodes well for the continent, which is striving to mobilize domestic resources to finance its own sustainable development, productive transformation, and inclusive growth. Combating illicit financial flows, IFFS, continues to be one of the pillars of improving domestic resource mobilization, and tax transparency and exchange of information have proven to be the reliable tools in combating illicit financial flows from Africa. The increasing number of countries that are providing information for the report is evidence of the confidence that our member states place in the TTIA. 6 non-member states in Africa, in the Africa Initiative, also came forward to submit information to the 2022 report. This is a positive step, and the African Union will continue to encourage more member states to join the Africa Initiative and contribute to the propagation of the report. Our objective is that all the 55 African Union member states eventually join the Africa Initiative. Countries that are part of the Africa Initiative have received additional tax revenues as a result of the use of requests for information. There are hence clear benefits to be being part of the Africa Initiative, and hence the call for each and every African Union member states to be part of this initiative so that they enjoy the benefits. I would like to take this opportunity to commend the Global Forum Secretariat, the African Tax Administration Forum, and my team for their efforts in producing the 2022 Tax Transparency in Africa report. I assure you of the continued commitment of the African Union Commission in this partnership. I will conclude by calling upon member states of the African Union and other stakeholders to make use of this publication and the rich information it contains as we will contribute to curbing illicit financial flows from Africa. I end here and thank each and every one of you for your kind attention. Mr. Git.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the continued support from the Africa Union Commission to the work of the Global Forum and also the work of the Africa Initiative. We are now ready to formally launch the report, and I will ask our moderator again, Wamba, to lead us in that session.
Thank you very much, our chair of the African Initiative, Mr. Gedhim Boro. Ladies and gentlemen, cometh the hour, cometh the man, and we are now ready to launch the report that we have just previously been introduced to. So I would kindly request that our chair of the African Initiative, Mr. Gedhim Boro, to please stick to the right there where the flags are, and I also want that Madam Zaida Manata to please accompany him, and Mr. Yoshiki Takeuchi to please go there. The ladies in the beautiful Ankara coats are going to give you a dummy book. Then our chair will officially launch or declare that the report is officially launched. There are the dummy books, ladies and gentlemen. The Tax Transparency in Africa report. Our chairman is about to declare that it is officially launched after a fantastic photo moment right there. Great smiles. It's a great report as well. It's the Tax Transparency in Africa 2022 Africa Initiative Progress Report.
It is my honor to declare the Tax Transparency in Africa 2022 Africa Initiative Progress Report officially launched.
Excellent. A warm round of applause, please. There we go. There we go. Let's keep clapping and appreciate. And there is the dummy book. That's how the report will be looking like. It is the Tax Transparency Report. There we go. Let's give them another warm round of applause, esteemed delegates. It's the Tax Transparency in Africa 2022 Africa Initiative Progress Report. Thank you very much, our chairman. Well done. To all our partners, to the Global Forum. Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Yoshiki. Thank you very much, Ms. Zaida. We appreciate, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There is our report. Congratulations. Well done, and thank you very, very much. Another warm round of applause. Excellent, great conversations that we've been having this morning. And of course, to cap it all was the launch of the Tax Transparency Report, Progress Report. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time that we get a cup of tea. In Kenya, we love tea. Every time is tea time. So we would like to welcome you to a cup of tea, which will be right here at the foyer. And we shall take tea for about maybe 15 minutes. We ask you to please interact and network. I know there are a couple of people you've not seen in a couple of years since COVID hit us. So please take some time and network outside. We shall be back after the break at 11:10 East African time. Thank you very much.